Hey everyone. Uh, a couple days ago, I got my Power Rangers Sins of the Future graphic novel. I was pretty excited to get this because I'm so happy we're finally breaking away from just Mighty Morphin stuff. Even Psychopath originated from the Green Psycho Ranger who was introduced in, I think, Shattered Grid or something. So anyway, really happy that we're finally getting something different, acknowledging that, yeah, there are other seasons. There's other seasons people grew up with. There's the generation that grew up with Mighty Morphin. There's generations who grew up with every other season as either their first season or their favorite season. So anyway, I just wanted to go over this graphic novel because it's a pretty interesting story. It's very odd, very strange, and it kind of hits a lot of the same problems that I have with the normal Boom comics. And there's a few cool things in there too, but yeah, I just wanted to go over this. It starts off with Jen, Wes, Eric are fighting off some Cyclobots that have hung around from after Time Force. So I'm thinking this takes place after Time Force, before reinforcements from the future from Wild Force. But there's stuff later on that muddies it even more, and I'm not sure when exactly it's supposed to be taking place. It's very strange. Let's see. Jen and Wes, they go on a date after that, and their relationship doesn't really feel the same as it did in the show, where it was very, I don't know, kind of vague. Like, there was definitely a relationship there, but it wasn't really as, like, just obvious. And here it's kind of cartoony. It reminds me of Fry and Leela from Futurama. And let's see. In the date, Wes makes a bunch of puns. What is he, a samurai ranger? Anyway, let's see. Anyway, after the date, Jen goes back to the future, and let's see, Katie's there. She asks her how her date went, and this and that, and there's a part where Jen talks to Circuit. Circuit, have you ever been in love? And Circuit gives a really awkward response that does not fit him at all. The concept of love is impossible for me to grasp since I'm a robotic owl. Alright. I would have expected him to say, I don't know, something a little more childish, because that's kind of how Circuit talked, was with this kind of childish way. Anyway, let's see, Jen monologues a lot. She goes to Captain Logan, who looks very different, at least to my memory. I don't know. I haven't watched those episodes of Time Force in a while. Anyway, he mentions Hyperforce. Nah, that's cute. It doesn't mean anything. There was a lot of hype that Hyperforce. Anyway, there was a lot of hype for Hyperforce in this book, but really, all they get is just a few little mentions. If you look in the background, there's the symbol. It doesn't mean anything. It's just fan service for fan service sake. Let's see. And here's where it starts to get really complicated with the time travel. It's a really confusing story. I had to read this a couple of times to figure everything out, and I still don't have everything figured out. It's so strange. Let's see what happens next. Oh yeah, she goes back to the past, and Wes shows her that the clock tower is back, and instead of being suspicious or thinking something weird has happened, he just goes right along with it, which seems a bit out of character, whatever. Anyway, Jen also kind of just goes along with it. She's a bit more suspicious of it, though. Then the Black Time Force Ranger shows up, who I think showed up in the Boom comics. I don't know for sure. I've heard people talk about the Black Time Force Ranger, and they were saying that they liked her better when they didn't know who she was, that she was just this mysterious figure. So I don't know if they're referring to the concept art that was put out, or if they meant she actually had a part in the comic, the main comic, because I don't know the main comic that well. Anyway, Jen goes back to the future, and Time Force attacks her. And they're really hot-headed. They will not stop. She's like, wait, let me explain. And they're like, there's nothing to explain, traitor. Pow, pow. And there's a big fight. I'm like, what is this, an old Marvel comic team-up or something? Where, like, Wolverine or someone would meet another superhero, there'd be a misunderstanding, and they'd get into a big fight before realizing, oh, we're both good guys. That's kind of what it feels like in that part. And then, let's see, Nadira shows up and saves Jen. And Nadira has her white outfit from the series, which at first I was like, wait, is that right? I thought she didn't wear it anymore after Time Force ended. But then I remembered in Reinforcements from the Future, she does have that white outfit back. So, I guess she just wears it when she feels like it. Oh, well. Anyway. Oh yeah, then let's see. Nadira tells... Oh yeah, Nadira's a scientist now. Alright, go with it. Anyway, Nadira has a lab, and she's talking to Jen about time skips, that something to do with Time Force time traveling has caused time skips. You're messing up the timeline, or something. I don't know, that's kind of confusing. Or the Black Time Force Ranger is doing it, something. Anyway, they get into another fight with the Black Time Force Ranger, and they're seeing the time skips again, and there's a scene where Jen and the Black Ranger are fighting on top of the Dragon Zord. And I was thinking, you know, that would have been kind of a neat thing. What if the time skips showed a bunch of, like, iconic events from Power Rangers history? Like, maybe... Whoop. This thing almost fell off there. Anyway, what if they showed a bunch of them skipping to different events? It'd be more like just pointless fan service, but it'd be interesting fan service. It'd be kind of neat to see all these things outside of Mighty Morphin, which... Actually, the Dragon Zord kind of ticked me off, because I'm like, oh, they had to fit Mighty Morphin in here somehow. When, mainly, it's very Time Force focused. They don't mention too many series outside of Wild Force, or outside of Time Force, if any. They don't even mention Wild Force, actually. There's, like, a few implications that Wild Force has happened because of reinforcements from the future. And, let's see, they mention Hyper Force. The Dragon Zord shows up that one scene, but... Other than that, it's very focused on Time Force. It doesn't go outside of it. It doesn't... Yeah. Which was kind of unfortunate, because I was kind of hoping this would tie into SPD or something. Because I kept thinking... Like, recently I had a fan theory that the Silver Guardians would eventually evolve into the SPD A-Squad. And that would be the origins of SPD. And it would also explain why the A-Squad has a Time Force uniform in SPD. Who knows? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, on to the thing. Let's see. The Black Time Force Ranger takes her helmet off, and it's revealed that she's Syra Drake, or Syrah, or Chira. I don't know how to pronounce the name. I'm guessing Syra. Anyway, Syra Drake. And Jen is like, you. And I'm like, who? Who is this? And I'm assuming she's another character that was maybe mentioned in the main series comic or something, because, like, Time Force is my favorite season, and I have no idea who Syra Drake is. Anyway, she's Alex's sister. Remember Alex? He was the original Red Ranger of Time Force, who was supposedly killed at the beginning, but then later it was revealed that he really wasn't killed, that he was just pretending to time travel something or other, I don't know. But anyway, in this version, he did die... And then messing with the time stream brought him back to life, but he was different. And I guess that was supposed to explain why he's such a big jerk when he shows up in Time Force. I think. I don't really know. It's very strange. I don't get it. So anyway, let's see. Jen tells them about Dr. Ferrix, who, spoilers, was Frax. Oh, and Frax is on the cover here. So, from the beginning, I wondered, what kind of impact does Frax have on this story? What impact could he have? Because, spoilers, he's dead at the end of Time Force. So, anyway, it turns out he wasn't really that good of a guy, as it turns out. Let's see. Apparently he was the inventor of the Chronomorphers, or at least the Black Chronomorpher. And, let's see, blah, blah, blah. I have notes here that I'm reading off of, because this was a really complicated story. There's a ton of stuff going on in it. Anyway, Ransik, they contact Ransik, who's a director at Time Force, and he's no longer half mutant. And that was really strange to me. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Ransik is a director at Time Force. I mean, yeah, he's a good guy after Wild Force, and after Time Force, kind of, sort of, but they actually made him a director at Time Force? What? What? Why did he want that? But the way Jen reacts to him makes me think that maybe this is like an alternate future or something, that in the main universe he isn't the director of Time Force, he's just himself. Maybe they put him back in prison, maybe he's just wandering around in the Animarium from Wild Force, maybe? I have no idea what the story is there, but anyway, it's really strange that I don't get what the point was. Like, is it fan service? Like, I mean, when I was a kid and Ransik became a good guy, kind of, sorta, I wanted to see him fight alongside the Time Force Rangers, which he did in Reinforcements from the Future, and I thought that was really cool, but I never expected he would actually join Time Force. It was something I never expected or wanted. It's a very odd choice there. Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, he mentions Dr. Ferrix betrayed him. What? That's a really odd statement. It's like Starscream and Beast Wars yelling at someone that they're a traitor. I mean, Ransik, Ferrix saved your life, and you repaid him by burning his lab down and, like, almost killing him. In fact, that was attempted murder. You wanted to kill him. So I don't know where this Ferrix betrayed me is coming from. Like, are you still nuts? Why are you a director if you're still nuts? Anyway, it's just one of those other weird things in the comic. And then, let's see. Oh yeah, then, let's see. Jen, Nadira, and Syra, they go to somewhere in time, and they fight these things, these pink things that have these heads that remind me a lot of the Pink Ranger helmet from Super Mega Force, or Gokaiger. They're called the Time Ravaged. What are they? I don't know. They fight with them for a little while, and then they're gone. Anyway, let's see. They find Ferrix's old lab, or a Time Force lab, or something. I don't remember. And there's a video document playing of Dr. Ferrix's experiments into time travel. And let's see, he was saying that for humans it's deadly, so he's trying out these people in the Cyclobot suits. Okay, they're not robots now, they're suits. And I was thinking, okay, so maybe this was intended to explain why he created the robots, that since you can't send a human through time, a robot could be sent through time, or something, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, he has a subject volunteer from Eltar, who he calls Z, and I've seen a few people on Twitter and places saying they really didn't like this. The implication was supposed to be that Z is Zordon, and that this is how the Morphin Grid started, or how Zordon became connected to the Morphin Grid, that Ferrix is trying to tap into the Morphin Grid to do time travel, and Zordon dies in the experiment and becomes linked with the Morphin Grid. It's an interesting theory, but to me, I just was like, oh, so I guess names that start with Z are really common on Eltar, and that's all I took from it. I flip my notes here. Yeah. Anyway, then we get really weird, and there's a really controversial thing. I don't know if a lot of fans are going to be for it. Ferrix created Venomark somehow. They don't explain how he did or why he did, but Dr. Ferrix created Venomark, the mutant that bit Ransik and caused his aggressive mutation. Although according to this, he was human and then became a mutant when Venomark bit him, which I don't think that's right. In the show, they show like Ransik coming out of like this leftover mutation, like ooze or like residue or something. I don't know. The implication I always took away from Time Force was that Ransik was a genetically altered human who didn't turn out right and was discarded. And Venomark bit him, and that created the mutation that takes over part of his face and his arm. You know, they don't bring up the mute orgs from Reinforcements from the Future in here. Oh, well, anyway, back to the whatever. Ferrix created Venomark. Okay. I guess that explains why he had the antidote ready and knew what to give Ransik, but I don't know, it's just so strange. Like, okay, it explains that, but it creates another plot hole. Like, why did he... Whatever, anyway. Oh, and then there's a robot in Ferrix's lab named Frix. Yeah, his name is Frix. Guess how many fricks I give. Anyway, let's see. It's a really self-fulfilling story, as it turns out, because Fricks reveals to them that Jen has to go back in time and give the Black Chronomorpher to young Syra and set the events of this convoluted story in motion. Alright. So much of this is just me going, alright. Anyway, let's see. Jen goes back, gives Syra the Black Chronomorpher, then she goes back to the present, 2002 or 3 or whatever, and she goes on another date with Wes, and it really starts to feel like Futurama when they reveal that they're also in space. Why are they in space? Also, there's the Black Alpha 55, I think, from Hyperforce. I haven't watched Hyperforce yet. I just know that they use that Black Alpha toy as their alpha, and they called it 55, I think. Anyway, in the back of this, there's some concept art. That's cool. And then there's that stupid preview for the Mighty Morphin comic that they have in every single Boom thing that they have to do. I'm so sick of seeing it. Pick something different. It would have been really nice if in the back they'd included, I don't know, one of the annual stories that tied into Time Force. Wait, was there any annuals that tied into Time Force? Or, I don't know, anything other than, you know, the reboot Mighty Morphin Green Ranger thing and blah, blah, blah. I'm so sick of seeing it. I didn't... Anyway. So anyway, there's the comic. It's really strange. It's got a lot of weird stuff in it. But in the end, it was fine. I enjoyed it. Like, it's got all this weirdness about it, and I remember reading from people that, like, Time Force is such a deep season, there's so much you can get out of it. Why did they make up all their own stuff, like Syra, or Dr. Ferrix creating Venomark, and the Chronomorphers and all that? Was that a thing in the show? Did Ferrix create the Chronomorphers? I don't think it was. I thought he was just an independent scientist. Anyway, yeah. But I'm really hoping that this will do well and that it inspires them to do more stories outside of Mighty Morphin, because for all this story's faults, the people writing it, they knew Time Force. Like, if you don't know Time Force and you go into reading this, you're probably going to be confused. And I'm hoping that in the future, if they do more outside of Mighty Morphin stories, like if they make an SPD comic, or a Dino Thunder comic, or a Lightspeed Rescue comic, RPM, Samurai, whatever, that they have writers who have the depth of knowledge that these writers had of Time Force. Because, like, in the show itself, we're not getting that. Like, recently we had Grid Connection and all those episodes bringing back old characters, old references coming up, and it was very clear that the writers just wanted to bring back old actors just for fan service sake, not for a story reason or anything. It was just, hey, look at this character, look at that character, look at this sword from an old season or something. And none of it really made sense. It was just there because it's Power Rangers, so here's stuff. Enjoy it, I guess, was the thinking there. So, in the comics, at least, we can get more mature, or at least the writers treat us like we're mature. So anyway, yeah. I don't know what else to say, so see ya.